Chapter 61 You are done, you will be a single dog. You are listening at novelfold.audio. A team of 7. Where's the rest of their squad? In previous Soul Master competitions, Blazing Fire Academy's strongest students were usually poached by Spirit Hall. Even if they weren't the absolute worst, they were stuck in the middle, rarely standing out. This wasn't just a Blazing Academy problem, other elemental academies faced the same thing. The top-tier Soul Master academies were practically raiding them. After all, Spirit Hall had influence over more than half of the mainland Soul Masters, so they had a huge pool of talent to draw from. You could probably form a team of 7 strong Soul Masters under 25 from any of the major academies, except Spirit Hall, no problem, but times have changed. Blazing Academy's days of easy wins are over. They might not be contenders this year, but barring any unforeseen circumstances, they're a shoo-in for the championship next time. Wuhu is already a level 39 Soul Master, and Wuhu will be breaking through to the 4th ring soon. With 5 more years of training, they'll both be 5-ring Soul Kings by the next competition. With his overpowered Soul Ring, powerful martial soul, and mysterious skills, he'll be unstoppable. He never dreamed he'd be in this position. Those fairy herbs are incredible. He's leveling up faster now than he did when he was just starting out. Plus, even though my little cousin's soul power is still a bit low, he's catching up fast. Give Mu Yang 5 years, and even if he's not a 5-ring Soul King, he'll be a high-level Soul Sect. With his secret techniques and nasty ice flames, even he might have trouble beating him. Based on past competitions, the 3 of them together, they wouldn't just win a 3-on-7, they could take on a team of 11. For teammates, hey, what about us? Xiaoyang, all you do is hang around the academy, training and doing nothing else. No friends, no fun. In a couple days, the academy's team is heading to Heaven-Do City for the competition. Wanna come watch? Wuhu asked. Yeah, definitely. Mu Yang replied immediately. He'd already written to Shui Binger, asking her to come to the Soul Master competition with him. Whether she came or not, he was going to Heaven-Do City. Judging by her replies to his previous letters, none of which sounded annoyed, she'd probably say yes. Besides, the Soul Master competition is the biggest event in the Soul Master world. It's bigger than the World Cup and the Olympics combined. Any Soul Master who can make it will be there. Hee, bro, why even ask? Xiaoyang wouldn't miss it. Wuhu said, smiling. Huh? Why not? Wuhu was confused. Word on the street is someone's been writing love letters to girls from another academy. What better way to have a good time and keep in touch than at the Soul Master competition? Wuhu winked at Mu Yang. Girl? Who? Oh, right. Shui Binger from Tianshui Academy. Good for you, little bro. Go get M. Wuhu patted Mu Yang on the shoulder encouragingly. Is his little cousin too young? No matter, let's be a pair of childhood sweethearts. There will be a day when you grow up. Mu Yang's got talent, and Shui Binger's no slouch either. If they hit it off, their parents won't have any reason to object. Mu Yang rolled his eyes. You guys haven't even finished eating, what are you talking about? Speaking of which, Wuhu, you haven't even held a girl's hand yet, have you? Dude, you're 16, halfway through puberty. Time to get a girlfriend. Mind your own business, kid. Wuhu, never good with words, especially with girls, blushed and looked embarrassed. You can't find a girlfriend? Seriously? Is our big brother Wuhu that unattractive? Yikes, you're doomed. You're gonna die alone. Mu Yang made a dramatic face. He's only 6 years older than me, why are you pretending to be a big-tailed wolf? Die alone. Wuhu's face darkened, and he glared at his venomous little cousin. Xiaoyang, you're going too far. Your sister's single too. Wuhu angrily poked the back of Mu Yang's head. Mu Yang paused. Isn't Feng Xiaotian from Shenfeng Academy chasing after you? I always see guards delivering letters from him to our house. Shenfeng Academy is hundreds of miles away from Blazing Fire Academy. Otherwise, Mu Yang would probably see Feng Xiaotian in the academy or at the entrance of the academy every day, but unlike him and Shui Binger, who wrote each other back, Feng Xiaotian never got a response from Huo Wu. It's not that Huo Wu was being aloof. Feng Xiaotian's first impression was just that bad. He basically challenged Qihua Academy to a fight, so it's no wonder Miss Huo Wu didn't like him. Ugh, I'd never go for Feng Xiaotian. I'm waiting for my Prince Charming. Huo Wu put her hands on her hips and tilted her head proudly. My older cousin has read too many novels and is already deeply poisoned. Mu Yang. In 3 seconds flat, Mu Yang came up with the simplest way for Feng Xiaotian to become his cousin-in-law. He'd go to Heaven-Do City and get Prince Xuexing to become his godfather. With Feng Xiaotian's innate full soul power, no one would refuse him as a godson, and the son of a prince is also a prince. Then, when he rides a white horse, Feng Xiaotian will become a Prince Charming. A week later, early in the morning, 3 large carriages left the gates of Qihua Academy, heading towards Heaven-Do City along the main road. Besides the drivers, the Qihua Academy group included the 10 contestants for this year's Qihua team, Dean Huolai, and Deputy Dean Mu Xie, who was serving as team leader. Mu Yang, Huo Wushuang, Huo Wu, and Hui Yun came along as well. Mu Yang and the other 2 don't need to be mentioned. Hui Yun is one of the students that Qihua Academy focuses on training. He has good talent and is not old, although he's only a 3-ring soul master right now. He'll most likely be a 4-ring in 5 years. He'll definitely be one of the main forces of the Qihua team, and Huolai wanted to give him a chance to see the world. It's worth noting that this year's Blazing Fire team is actually stronger than the team in the original story. In fact, just looking at their soul power levels, they're even better. The 7 main players are still 3 4-ring and 4 3-ring soul masters, but the captain, Huo Ling, is a level 46 soul master, 3 or 4 levels higher than Huo Wu and Huo Wushuang. The original story. Chapter 62 The Thrill from the Martial Soul. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It wasn't that the brother and sister were less talented than Huo Ling, but their age was the issue. The Soul Master competition had an age limit of 25. In the source material, 19-year-old Huo Wu and 20-year-old Huo Wushuang had lower soul power levels than the 23-year-old Huo Ling. Even though Tang San and the others were young, many academy students were actually over the age limit. Besides Huo Wu and Huo Wushuang, Shui Binger, and Hu Laina, the Golden Generation trio from the Spirit Hall team were also quite young, all around 21 or 22. Ultimately, strength in the Soul Master competition wasn't directly related to talent. Weaker contestants might simply have less experience, resulting in lower soul power. Stronger contestants might have more experience, nearing the age limit, and not necessarily possessing exceptional talent. On the road, 3 carriages sped along. In the last carriage were Huolai, Mu Xie, and Mu Yang. Xiao Wu, are you sure you're not competing? We haven't submitted the college's roster yet. It's not too late to change your mind. Huolai asked Huo Wu. As Blazing Academy's dean, Huolai naturally wanted the Blazing team to perform well. If Huo Wu joined, the team's original lineup of 3 Soul Sect members and 4 Soul Sovereigns could become 4 Soul Sect members and 3 Soul Sovereigns before the finals, boosting their chances. Huolai, with his 9-ring title, Douluo strength and Blazing Academy's reputation, didn't care if a 15-year-old 4-ring Soul Sect member with over-the-limit soul rings seemed too flashy. Unless Huo Wu clearly intended to join the Heaven-Do Empire or the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School, neither the Star Luo Empire nor the Spirit Hall would risk angering the neutral Blazing Academy by killing a talented Soul Master. Dad, my sister said she won't compete if she can't win the championship, Huo Wushuang said, jumping into the conversation before Huo Wu could respond. Haha. Huolai chuckled, glancing at the slightly embarrassed Huo Wu, and said, okay, we'll listen to Xiao Wu and wait for the next one. Huolai couldn't predict the Blazing Fire team's performance in this competition, but he knew that in the next Soul Master competition, the Blazing Fire team would definitely shine the brightest. 3 days later, near dusk, the Blazing Fire Academy group arrived in Heaven-Do City. Huolai and Blazing Academy had plenty of money, so they checked into the Heaven-Do Hotel, a high-end establishment in the city center, near the Great Soul Arena. The opening ceremony is in 2 days. Binger and the others should be here by now, right? Mu Yang thought, waiting for check-in in the hotel lobby. Soon, the Blazing Fire Academy group finished checking in, with rooms all on the hotel's top 5th floor. As he climbed the stairs, Mu Yang felt a sudden throbbing. He frowned and stopped. Xiaoyang, what's wrong? Huo Wu asked, following behind him. Nothing. Thinking it was his imagination, Mu Yang shook his head and continued up, but Mu Yang soon realized it wasn't his imagination. The throbbing grew stronger the higher he went. The source of the throbbing was his ice flame holy shadow martial soul. Martial soul fusion skill. Mu Yang immediately thought of this synonym for power in the Soul Master world. Martial soul fusion skills weren't just 1 + 1 = 2, a 5-ring soul king with a martial soul fusion skill could often beat 2 without it, all else being equal. Generally, a fusion skill could let a soul master overcome a major challenge. For example, a fusion skill between 2 5-ring soul kings could rival a 6-ring soul emperor. The more people involved, the stronger the skill. Yu Xiaojiang Flanders, and Lu Erlong, a 2nd-level soul master and 2 7th-level soul saints, could activate the Golden Holy Dragon fusion skill, rivaling an 8-ring soul Douluo and competing with a 9-ring title Douluo. If Yu Xiaojiang reached the level of a 7-ring soul saint, the Golden Holy Dragon might truly rival a 9-ring title Douluo. However, martial soul fusion skills required complementary martial souls. Usually, only 2-person fusions occurred. The 3-person Golden Holy Dragon was a rare exception. Because of their power, martial soul fusion partners without a blood relationship tended to become close friends, brothers, or husband and wife. Faced with this sudden opportunity, Mu Yang felt conflicted. The fusion technique was great, but he'd taken immortal herbs, and his future soul power cultivation speed would be incredible. After becoming a title Douluo, adding high-year soul rings to his ice flame holy shadow martial soul would bring him close to godhood. As long as he could gather the rings, if he didn't invest heavily in cultivating the other person, their strength wouldn't keep up. A lopsided fusion skill, with him being far stronger, would be much less effective. The greater the difference in strength, the weaker the amplification. For example, if he was a 9-ring title Douluo and the other person was a 7-ring soul saint or even a 6-ring soul emperor, how much would the fusion skill really improve things? But he was reluctant to invest heavily in someone he didn't know. Plus, the fusion skill depended on the martial soul, not the person. Who knew what the other person was like? If it was a man, he could accept him as a younger brother as long as he didn't cause trouble, but if it was an old, ugly woman with a wild private life and a nasty personality, he'd rather not have the fusion skill at all. Chapter 63 Lovers will always be together. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Xiaoyang, what's up? You seem a million miles away. Mu Xie frowned, noticing Mu Yang's distraction. Mu Yang glanced at the Blazing Academy group and then used soul transmission to whisper to Mu Xie, "Aunt, my ice flame holy shadow martial soul is vibrating. I think someone in this hotel can trigger a martial soul fusion skill with me." While soul power transmission is tough for low-level soul masters, most only get it around the 7-ring soul sage level. It's not a big deal for him. Basically, it's just a soul master channeling their soul and mental power. With serious control, you can transmit sound using your soul power, and your mental strength determines how far it goes, thanks to the control he learned practicing the Ice Flame secret method. Plus his 5th ring mental power, long distances are out, but close range. No problem. Of course, with his current control, anyone nearby with good senses could tell it's him talking. What? Martial soul. Mu Xie's eyes went wide, shocked. She barely caught herself, remembering Mu Yang's ice flame holy shadow martial soul was a secret. Besides the shock, Mu Xie was really touched. Her nephew was seriously blessed. Full soul power, twin martial souls, and a martial soul fusion skill. He's making life impossible for future enemies. Of course, they needed to confirm if the martial soul fusion thing was legit, and like Mu Yang thought, they didn't know who it was, guy or girl, their age, or what they were like. Then, Mu Xie and Huolai did a voice transmission. After getting to the 5th floor and setting up the Blazing Academy crew, and leaving them to it, the couple, super curious about the martial soul fusion, immediately followed Mu Yang to track down the throbbing martial soul. Pretty soon, Mu Yang was at the end of a 5th floor hallway. pinpointing the other person's location. "They're in this room on the 4th floor," Mu Yang told them, pointing to a suite at the end of the hall. Huo Lai listened carefully. He couldn't just blast his mental power around, not in a hotel, in case he saw something awkward. Otherwise, he'd know what was up immediately, but the next second, Huo Lai looked surprised, then smiled and said, "Let's head down." "We know them." Mu Yang was confused. "Acquaintances? Who?" Meanwhile, on the 4th floor, ******, a door at the end of the hall opened, and a beautiful blue-haired woman and a blue-haired, blue-eyed girl stepped out. "Aunt, I'm sure of it. That martial soul throbbing means it's a martial soul fusion skill, just like I felt with Xuewu at first," Shui Binger said to Shui Yenyu, sounding confident. Xuewu, a student who joined Tianshui College 2 years ago, was Shui Binger's good friend. Her Ice Phoenix martial soul and Xuewu's Xianwu Snow Satin martial soul could trigger the martial soul fusion skill, Ice and Snow Flying. "Binger, if you can do a fusion skill with your Ice Phoenix, then they've gotta have an ice or water martial soul. If it's a girl, fine, but if it's a boy, what'll you do? Our Tianshui College doesn't take boys, and I heard from Yuer about you and Xiao Muyang." Shui Yenyu trailed off, sounding uncertain. Shui Binger blushed and inwardly cursed her sister, Shui Yuer. If she hadn't run her mouth, the older students would have stopped teasing her about raising a younger husband. "Let's just see. If it's a girl, we'll make friends," Shui Binger said. "Guys, forget it." She already had a fusion skill. It wasn't that Shui Binger looked down on unknown skills just because she had one already. It was that activating a skill was different than mastering it. She still had a hard time controlling ice and snow drifting with Xuewu. Plus, she had classes and stuff, so she didn't have the time to master a new skill. "Huh. Aunt, they're coming," Shui Binger said, noticing that the others were heading toward the stairs, just like them. The soul throbbing was two-way. If you could feel it, so could they. Since fusion skills were rare, it made sense they'd be coming too. "Really? Let's go," Shui Yenyu said, raising an eyebrow. She was eager to see who it was. At the stairs, as they got closer, Mu Yang prayed in his heart, "Please be a guy, please be a guy," that he didn't want it to be a girl. Maybe fusion skills were supposed to be a match made in heaven, a twist of fate, but he didn't need it. He'd control his own fate. "Thank you very much." Besides, there were tons of pretty girls around, and he already liked someone. Even if it was just a crush at this point, he didn't need God setting up a blind date for him. If it was a guy, and he was a decent person, he wouldn't mind mentoring him. "Here it comes," he thought, and rounded the corner, and his eyes landed on Binger. Seeing Shui Binger and Shui Yenyu, Mu Yang's eyes went wide, and he blurted out her name. This was way too unexpected. Could he actually trigger a fusion skill with the girl he liked? This wasn't just lovers eventually get married, but lovers must get married. Little Mu Yang. Mu Yang wasn't the only one stunned. Shui Binger was too. She never expected the person who could trigger her Ice Phoenix martial soul would be her little husband. Scratch that, it was just Mu Yang. They'd met before, and her Ice Phoenix hadn't vibrated like this with Mu Yang's ginseng martial soul. "Heh, I told you we knew them," Huo Lai said with a smile. He'd picked up Shui Yenyu's energy while passively sensing from upstairs. Anyone with Mu Yang had to be from Tianshui College, but Huo Lai was shocked that it turned out to be Shui Binger. Chapter 64 Treasure Boy. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hold on, Mu Yang, isn't your hair red? How'd it go blue? Shui Binger suddenly realized something was different about Mu Yang. He wasn't just taller and less sickly looking, his hair had changed color too. "Yeah, I got lucky. My martial soul mutated and evolved." Mu Yang explained. They'd been corresponding, but Mu Yang hadn't mentioned the martial soul transformation in his letters. They'd planned to share the news in person in Tiando City while watching the Soul Master competition, so this was a big surprise. "Show me what your martial soul became. I wonder what kind of martial soul fusion technique my Ice Phoenix martial soul can form with your evolved ginseng martial soul." Shui Binger blinked her gorgeous ice blue eyes, eager to see, this is great. The guy I've been planning to raise, as my little brother can actually use martial soul fusion techniques with me, star. How about we find a private spot? Mu Yang glanced at Huolai, Mu Xie, and Shui Yenyu. His ice flame holy shadow martial soul was the one that could fuse with Shui Binger's ice phoenix. He was sure that Shui Binger was going to be his future wife because they could do a martial soul fusion. Shui Yenyu, being Shui Binger's aunt, was basically his aunt too, so he didn't think she'd be out to get him, but they were in the Tiando Hotel, not exactly a private place, and Mu Yang wasn't ready to reveal his twin martial souls to just anyone yet. Shui Yenyu and Shui Binger looked confused. Just then, Mu Xie sent Shui Yenyu a private message, Yenyu, Xiaoyang is practically family now. You gotta look out for him. Truth is, Xiaoyang awakened twin martial souls from the start. Both have evolved. The one that can use a martial soul fusion skill with Binger is his second, double martial soul fusion skill, one man and one woman, and they're close in age. With both sides already knowing each other, these two are pretty much guaranteed to end up together, Since they were practically family already, Mu Xie wasn't going to hide Mu Yang's twin martial souls from Shui Yenyu. Besides, it was going to come out eventually anyway, since they couldn't activate the fusion without revealing his martial souls. As soon as Shui Yenyu got the message, her eyes widened. She stared at Mu Yang, astonished, wow, talk about a treasure. Shui Yenyu had figured Mu Yang would end up as a food-type title Douluo, high soul power but no combat ability, always needing Xiao Binger to protect him. Now, it looked like Mu Yang would become one of the strongest soul masters on the continent. If his first martial soul was food-type, his second definitely couldn't be auxiliary or healing. After all, twin martial souls were inherited from parents. If one was a food-type soul master, the other had to be a combat type. Otherwise, they'd both be sitting ducks. Plus, innate full soul power practically guaranteed him becoming a title Douluo. Even though you have to overcome a hurdle for each level after level 90, bottlenecks and the like don't exist for twin martial soul masters. Other soul masters relied on talent and insight to break through bottlenecks, but for twin martial soul masters, adding soul rings to the second martial soul can directly break through the bottleneck with the help of the soul power increase brought by the attached soul rings. Blazing Fire Academy has theoretical research on twin martial souls. Jinshui Academy also has it, and even most of the forces ranked in the mainland Soul Master world have it. It's just that the case of twin martial souls is too rare and has not been truly verified. The theory is still just a theory, and it is not 100% guaranteed to be feasible. Jackpot. This is a future goldmine. Shui Yenyu's eyes lit up. Maybe I could even get a shot at becoming a title Douluo myself. Her talent wasn't bad. 6 years ago, she'd broken through the level 80 bottleneck with a soul bone and become an 8-ring soul Douluo. Now, all that stood between her and becoming a 9-ring title Douluo was accumulating soul power and the hurdle at level 90. If I could get my hands on a top-tier soul bone, like a 100,000-year one, maybe that hurdle would disappear. Ordinary title Douluos wouldn't just hand over a 100,000-year soul bone, but for a peerless Douluo, it'd be a piece of cake. 100,000-year soul beasts are rare on land, but the ocean is teeming with them. If you knew where to look, you could find them. Hunting one with the strength of a peerless Douluo would be easy, right? If I help Mu Yang grow stronger and get Xiao Binger to put in a good word for me, she'd help her aunt out, wouldn't she? Mu Yang shivered under Shui Yenyu's intense gaze. What's going on? Is this some kind of weird kidnapping attempt? Wait here, I'll take care of a few things first. Then we'll find a place outside the city to test out that martial soul fusion technique. Shui Yenyu hurried off. The Tianshui College team had just arrived in Tiando City, and as the dean, she couldn't just vanish, so she needed to check in with the team leader. See ya, tell Huolai and the others, too. Huolai said to Mu Xie. Got it. Mu Xie nodded. Half an hour later, 5 figures were in a grove 10 miles west of Tiando City. After scanning the area with his spiritual power and finding no one else nearby, Huolai said, "This looks good. Nobody around. Come on, Mu Yang, show me your ice flame holy shadow martial soul. Shui Binger couldn't wait. Before they left, Mu Yang had privately explained the twin martial souls, and Shui Binger, who hadn't understood before, was now bursting with excitement. Binger, I don't think you should call me Little Mu Yang anymore. Mu Yang said after a moment. If I don't call you Little Mu Yang, what should I call you? Shui Binger blinked. Just Mu Yang. Not daring to say what he truly wanted, Mu Yang figured he'd start by getting rid of the little part first. No way. I'm Yuer's sister. If Yuer can call you Little Mu Yang, why can't I? Shui Binger batted her ice blue eyes and shook her head. If I don't call him Little Mu Yang, I won't get that warm, fuzzy feeling of raising him. Who said I let Yuer call me that? She needs to stop. Mu Yang declared loudly. Little Mu Yang's leveling up too fast. Now he's my brother-in-law. Chapter 65 Soul Fusion Technique, Ice Flame Phoenix. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Maybe she picked up on the subtext, because Shui Binger's cheeks flushed, making her youthful face even more adorable. That settles it. You're my Binger now, and I'm your Mu Yang. Mu Yang reached out, took Shui Binger's hand, and clasped his palm against hers, his fingers intertwining with hers. Shui Binger's face went even redder. She tried to pull away, but Mu Yang held on tight. After a moment's hesitation, she intertwined her fingers with his. Hee. Mu Yang smiled, looking at their clasped hands. Is this martial soul fusion skill destiny at work? Nice one, Fate. I dig it. My bad for talking trash earlier, hope you can forgive me. After a while, Huolai, seeing Mu Yang still holding Shui Binger's hand, grumbled, come on, kid, it's gonna be dark soon. Oh, right, Mu Yang said, a little embarrassed, and released her hand. Ice Flame Holy Shadow, possess. With a soft shout, Mu Yang's body flashed ice blue, and a biting cold emanated as his soul power surged. An ice blue phantom, a spitting image of himself, appeared behind him. Doesn't seem like a pure ice attribute martial soul. Shui Binger asked, curious. After studying the phantom, her ice phoenix was an ice attribute, and she'd seen plenty of them. She could tell Mu Yang's ice flame holy shadow wasn't a straight-up ice type, it seemed to be burning ice. Wait, can ice even do that? Binger, you're sharp. My second martial soul was originally a fire attribute Hokage. After the transformation, it's naturally not just ice, it's a fusion of ice and fire. I call it ice flame. Mu Yang praised, channeling his soul power, and an ice blue flame flickered in his palm. Ice flame from ice and fire fusion. Shui Binger raised her eyebrows, muttering to herself, then unleashed her ice phoenix martial soul. Clang! A loud phoenix cry echoed, bringing a blast of cold air. Yellow, and purple soul rings swirled around Shui Binger. Behind her, a blue divine bird with a 2-foot wingspan, slender tail feathers, and ice blue plumage appeared, noble and elegant. Compared to a fire phoenix, Shui Binger's ice phoenix was just as formidable, differing only in attribute. Fire versus ice, equal power, of course. Due to the inherent natures of ice and fire, the fire phoenix went for raw power, while the ice phoenix lent itself to control. The moment the ice flame holy shadow and the ice phoenix appeared, Mu Yang and Shui Binger felt an even stronger connection, like these two completely different martial souls were meant to be together. Mu Yang, focus on the connection between the martial souls. Follow it, and we can activate the martial soul fusion skill. Shui Binger reminded him, since she already knew how to use ice and snow drifting martial soul fusion. Mu Yang closed his eyes, concentrating on that special connection. Soon, an illusionary ice flame enveloped Mu Yang, and a strong blue glow surrounded Shui Binger. The next second, the ice flame holy shadow and the ice phoenix resonated. Instantly, a brilliant ice blue light beam shot up, engulfing Mu Yang and Shui Binger. With their 3 soul rings. Clang! With a loud phoenix cry, the light beam faded, and the 2 figures vanished. In their place, an ice blue phoenix soared through the air, over 20 feet long, wreathed in ice flames. Binger. Mu Yang's voice echoed in her mind. I'm here. Shui Binger, who was guiding the fusion, replied. Binger, Xiaoyang, who's in charge of this fusion? Shui Yenyu asked the Ice Flame Phoenix. I am. The Phoenix didn't speak, but Shui Binger's voice came out clearly. Shui Yenyu frowned. She would have preferred Mu Yang to lead the fusion. Mu Yang was the stronger talent, especially with his twin martial souls. He might be a lower level now, but he'd definitely surpass Shui Binger later. It didn't matter who led it, the base strength of the fusion skill remained the same, but a strong person would naturally display more power than a weak one. For one thing, the strong one would have faster reaction speed, that was obvious. Binger, what's the name of your fusion skill? It looks like a power type. What can it do? Mu Xia asked, watching the Ice Phoenix wreathed in flames. Ice Flame Phoenix. As for what it can do. Guided by Shui Binger, the Ice Flame Phoenix dove down, energy gathering in its beak. Then, the Ice Flame Phoenix opened its beak slightly, and a fan-shaped ice flame torrent poured out. Every tree touched by the torrent froze and burned. In a blink, nothing remained but white ash on frozen ground. Yes, frozen ground. The Ice Flame soul power that Mu Yang had cultivated with the Ice Flame meditation method, or that was created by the Ice Flame Holy Shadow Martial Soul, could only burn, not freeze, but the Ice Flame Phoenix's special Ice Flame could freeze and burn. In other words, the Ice Flame Phoenix was a martial soul fusion skill that combined strong attack with control. Freeze, burn, unstoppable. Mu Yang thought, looking at the white ash on the frozen ground. Freezing was a powerful control. Unless one side was much stronger, it was difficult to escape instantly. Once someone was touched by the Ice Flame Phoenix's special Ice Flame, they'd be frozen and burned at the same time. Chapter 66 Second Form, Ice Phoenix Flame Shadow, Part 1. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Huo Wushuang used to complain that his ice flame was disgusting, but Mu Yang thought that his ice flame couldn't hold a candle to this one in front of him, which combined attack and control so well. Of course, that disgusting feeling was only from the opponent's perspective. If you were on the receiving end, it was pretty awesome. Not bad. A really powerful martial soul fusion skill. Binger's a level 33 Soul Master, and Xiaoyang's a level 25 Great Soul Master, but with that special Ice Flame, the Ice Flame Phoenix is definitely top tier among 4-ring Soul Masters. If Xiaoyang could reach the 3rd ring and add 3 Soul Rings, the Ice Flame Phoenix might even stand a chance against a 5-ring Soul King. Huo Lai gave his unbiased assessment. Generally, a double martial soul fusion skill boosts a Soul Master's strength by a level, but it's not a sure thing, since many factors play into its power. The type of fusion skill, the soul power levels of the Soul Masters involved, how compatible their martial souls are, and whether they have any suitable special techniques all make a difference. Even the Soul Ring configuration of the Soul Master is a factor. Mu Yang's level 25 soul power and the Ice Flame Holy Shadow Martial Soul Sand Soul Rings were holding Shui Binger back. Low soul power weakens the martial soul fusion skill's amplification effect, and the missing soul rings from the Ice Flame Holy Shadow Martial Soul further diminish its strength. Soul rings obviously contain a ton of energy, otherwise, the Haotian sect's Great Shumi Hammer wouldn't be such a deadly technique. Still, even with Mu Yang as a handicap, you can't deny the Ice Flame Phoenix's power. Even if its current abilities are limited, as they say, one trick can win the game. This Ice Flame alone, with its freezing and burning effects, is enough to make opponents who are only slightly stronger than the Ice Flame Phoenix lose hope. Hold your applause, Mu Yang's voice called from midair. There's more where that came from. Then, under Shui Binger's control, the flying Ice Flame Phoenix descended and relinquished control of the martial soul fusion technique to Mu Yang. Instantly, a dazzling ice blue light burst from the Ice Flame Phoenix. Through the light, Huo Lai watched as the Ice Flame Phoenix's form shifted. In the blink of an eye, the 20-foot-long phoenix transformed into a human figure with long, flowing ice blue hair, clad in Ice Phoenix armor. The full-body Ice Phoenix armor covered everything from head to toe, except for the eyes, and its surface was etched with gorgeous blue phoenix patterns. Combined with the ethereal ice flames that swirled like blue mist, it looked like an ice phoenix warrior from a land of snow and ice. Your martial soul fusion has two forms? Huo Lai asked in surprise, observing the shift in appearance. Yep, this is the second form of the martial soul fusion skill, Ice Phoenix Flame Shadow. The Ice Phoenix form is mainly based on the Ice Phoenix martial soul, supported by the Ice Flame Holy Shadow martial soul, and is controlled by Binger. The Ice Phoenix Flame Shadow form, on the other hand, is mainly based on the Ice Flame Holy Shadow martial soul, supported by the Ice Phoenix martial soul, and is controlled by me. Both forms control special ice flames. The Ice Flame Phoenix form can fly and has more raw power. The Ice Phoenix Flame Shadow form can't fly and isn't as strong, but it has finer control over the ice flames. Mu Yang's voice came from the Ice Phoenix Flame Shadow figure encased in the Ice Phoenix armor. Huo Lai could already tell that the Ice Phoenix Flame Shadow was about 30% weaker than the Ice Flame Phoenix. But he didn't underestimate the Ice Phoenix Flame Shadow. In fact, he thought that the form, despite being weaker, was stronger than the Ice Flame Phoenix. That was because the Ice Phoenix Flame Shadow was humanoid, while the Ice Flame Phoenix was a beast. Even though its base power was weaker, the human form's ability to combine with different techniques made it stronger in practice. After all, soul masters are human, not beasts. And since their martial soul fusion skills weren't focused on melee combat, the humanoid Ice Phoenix Flame Shadow was better suited for techniques. Xiaoyang, Binger, how about I test your strength? Shui Yenyu stepped forward and said to Mu Yang and Shui Binger in their Ice Phoenix Flame Shadow state. And try to take it easy on us, Mu Yang replied. Even if Shui Yenyu hadn't offered, Mu Yang had been planning to find 3 people to test the limits of their martial soul fusion skills and see just how strong they were. Such a smooth talker, calling me Aunt so quickly. Shui Yenyu teased, laughing at Mu Yang's forwardness. What else am I supposed to call you? You're Binger's aunt, so you're my aunt. Right, Binger? Mu Yang said matter-of-factly. To become the dean of Tianshui College, Shui Yenyu had to be talented, and her strength was nothing to sneeze at. If he could give her an ice meditation technique of the same caliber as the extreme flame meditation method, she would have a good chance of becoming a 9-ring title Douluo. In a few years, he'd have another powerful ally. With the martial soul fusion skill, Shui Binger was practically his future daughter-in-law. So, he had to set up the extreme ice meditation method as soon as possible. When the next version came out, he could just give a copy to Shui Yenyu. Mu Yang, she's right, you're so shameless. Shui Binger's shy voice echoed in Mu Yang's mind. Mu Yang, do you like it? Shui Binger. Ice bird, possess. Pointing a finger at Mu Yang in his Ice Phoenix Flame Shadow form, Shui Yenyu's body flared with an ice blue soul power. A bird's cry rang out, and 8 soul rings, yellow, yellow, purple, purple, black, 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 appeared, radiating an intense chill. An ice blue ice bird shadow manifested behind her. Seeing this, Mu Yang dropped the joking act. Ice blue light surrounded him as he activated the Ice Flame secret method, Ice Flame armor and Ice Flame realm. The martial soul fusion skill, Ice Phoenix Flame Shadow, instantly generated a layer of ice blue armor around his body, and 6 ice mirrors, each a foot in diameter, floated around him. Huh? Xiaoyang, is this a self-created soul skill? Shui Yenyu asked in surprise, spotting the Ice Flame armor and the ice mirrors. Mu Yang nodded. Yes, I'm training a food-type martial soul. The martial soul doesn't have combat power, so I've had to make up for it by creating my own skills. I can't say how strong they'll be, but at least I won't get pushed around by a soul master of the same level. Huo Wushuang, pushed around by a soul master of the same level? More like pushing around a soul master who is several levels higher. Mu Yang, I'm just being humble, don't take it so seriously. Chapter 67 Second Form, Ice Phoenix Flame Shadow, Part 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xiaoyang, focus on your soul skills, but don't slack off on your soul power training. You know Feng Xiaotian from Shenfeng Academy, right? Don't go down that road. Shui Yanyu warned, looking serious. As a senior, Shui Yanyu didn't want Mu Yang to get sidetracked. When they first met at the Five Elements Academy, Feng Xiaotian claimed to have innate full soul power, which immediately caught the attention of the other elemental academies. Innate soul power is a big deal. As the dean of Tianshui College, Shui Yanyu naturally had someone look into it, but after gathering information on Feng Xiaotian, Shui Yanyu was stunned. The guy did have innate full soul power, but he was also a total weirdo. She couldn't fathom what Feng Jin of Shenfeng Academy was thinking. Letting such a talented genius in his prime neglect soul power training to mess around with his own soul skills. It was a complete waste. If she had a student like that, she'd string him up by his toes and force him to train. Forget cultivating soul power. I'd break their legs. Got it, Mu Yang replied. He understood Shui Yenyu's concern, but his situation was different. Feng Xiaotian was creating soul skills from scratch, while he relied on his natural deduction ability. It was much more efficient. Besides, he never skipped out on soul power training, except maybe once in a while. Outperforming higher-level opponents was great, but nothing beat crushing them with your own superior power. Of course, Feng Xiaotian had probably changed and wasn't as obsessed with creating soul skills as he used to be. You could underestimate Ligu, but you shouldn't underestimate the changes and efforts he was willing to make for his crush. Some might see it as nothing, but it was the most a simp could do. Dragon of Ice Flame. Mu Yang didn't waste any time. He controlled the Ice Phoenix Flame Shadow to unleash his most powerful attack technique. With a surge of soul power, a lifelike ice blue dragon, wreathed in blazing ice flames, rose from behind the Ice Phoenix Flame figure. The martial soul fusion technique was powerful, but it drained a lot of soul power. Since he and Shui Binger weren't high level, and their reserves weren't deep, they needed to act fast. Looks impressive. Second soul skill, Absolute Zero Air. Shui Yenyu, eyeing the ice blue dragon, raised her eyebrows. Her second soul ring flashed, she parted her red lips, and a stream of icy blue air, intensely cold, blasted toward the ice flame dragon. Crack! The ice flame dragon was instantly coated in frost. The frost spread, and the entire dragon froze and plummeted from the sky. However, the core of the ice flame dragon remained intact. Shui Yenyu's second soul skill, Absolute Zero Air, was a control skill, not an attack. Since the ice flame dragon was made of ice flames, and already super cold, freezing wasn't a huge deal. Spear of Ice Flame. Ignoring the dragon, which would soon break free, Mu Yang thought, and a spear made entirely of ice flames materialized in Ice Phoenix Flame Shadow's hand. With a whoosh, the ice flame spear hurtled toward Shui Yenyu. Third soul skill, Wings of Ice. Shui Yenyu's third soul ring lit up. A pair of ice wings sprouted from her back. She flapped them, sidestepped, and avoided the spear. Change direction. Seeing Shui Yenyu dodge, Mu Yang willed it. The spear, after passing her, arced back and targeted her again. It can lock on and track. Shui Yenyu was surprised. She flapped her wings and dodged again. Despite Mu Yang's control, the ice flame spear couldn't hit Shui Yenyu. It relentlessly pursued her, leaving her no chance to counter. The situation was deadlocked. Breaking the lock was simple. The spear changed direction because Mu Yang guided it with his mind. If Shui Yenyu put enough distance between them, he'd lose control. She probably knew that, but as an 8-ring soul Douluo, she wasn't about to do it. A soul Douluo guiding juniors shouldn't run from their attacks. That'd be embarrassing. Fifth soul skill, Ice Aegis. To break the stalemate, Shui Yenyu acted. Her fifth soul ring glowed, and a transparent ice blue shield formed around her. The ice flame spear slammed into the shield. Bang! The spear exploded, showering the shield with ice flames. Crack! As the flames touched it, there was a faint crackling sound, like ice melting. Shui Yenyu saw a layer of frost forming on the shield. She didn't care. The special ice flames from Mu Yang and Shui Binger's Ice Phoenix Flame Shadow, second form, were strong, but only relatively. She was an 8-ring soul Douluo. How could she be stopped by a barely 4th-ring martial soul fusion? It was powerful enough to give her a chill. The gap of 4 ranks was too vast to cross. Even so, Shui Yanyu was impressed by the power of the ice flames. Although she was fine, an ordinary 4th ring soul master, or even a newly minted 5th ring soul king, would probably be frozen solid. Moreover, the flames were incredibly sticky. Once you were frozen, you stayed that way until they were extinguished, and they not only froze, but also burned intensely, making them much harder to deal with than normal ice control skills. Just then, the ice flame dragon, freed from its icy prison, soared again and charged at Shui Yanyu. The battle intensified. Chapter 68. As long as the hoe is used well, there is no corner that cannot be dug down. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. The fight raged on, 3 minutes ticking by. Bang, an icy blue beam shot across the space, hitting the ice flame dragon square in the head. The dragon exploded instantly, showering the area with frozen fire. Having gauged the power of the Ice Phoenix Flame Shadow's second form martial soul fusion skill, Shui Yanyu activated her 6th soul skill, Extreme Ice Feather, and obliterated the Ice Flame Dragon. No contest. After taking down the big dragon with a single move, Shui Yanyu turned her attention to the Ice Phoenix Flame Shadow, now encircled by an icy blue aura. Mu Yang's Ice Flame Domain, the innate ability of his Ice Flame Saint Shadow martial soul. Unfortunately, the power gap was too wide. Even with the martial soul fusion skill and the domain boost, Mu Yang couldn't even scratch Shui Yanyu. Her 10,000-year 5th soul skill created an ice shield that was simply impenetrable to the newly 4th ring Ice Phoenix Flame Shadow. Auntie, seriously, I'm all out of ammo here, Mu Yang said, spreading his hands in a gesture of helplessness in response to Shui Yanyu's questioning gaze. Shui Yanyu let out a silent sigh of relief. Mu Yang had been full of surprises that day. First, the martial soul fusion skill and a second martial soul, then a series of secret techniques, and finally domain power, something most titled Douluos never mastered. It was truly eye-opening. The only thing holding Mu Yang and Shui Binger back was their current soul power level. If they could both reach the 7th ring soul saint stage, they could probably take her down, a high-level soul Douluo, even if they were freshly minted 7th ringers. At the 6th ring stage, they would at least be a match for her. Mu Yang then deactivated the martial soul fusion skill, and the Ice Phoenix Flame Shadow vanished, leaving him and Shui Binger standing where they had been. Seeing Shui Binger's slightly pale face, and knowing it was from excessive soul power consumption, Mu Yang immediately switched to his Ice Fire Fairy Jade Ginseng martial soul. His first soul ring lit up, he chanted a soul spell, and a flash of red light created 2 red jade soul-restoring ginsengs. Binger, say ah, Mu Yang said, holding a red jade soul-restoring ginseng up to Shui Binger's mouth. Shui Binger blushed, hesitated for a moment, and then opened her mouth. Being fed by her man, well, how could she refuse? After swallowing the red jade soul-restoring ginseng, both of them felt a lot better. That's good stuff, even better than before, Shui Binger said, savoring the sweetness. Ordinary ginseng wasn't exactly known for its amazing raw flavor. Most people wouldn't call it delicious, but soul power food was different from regular food. Before his martial soul evolved, Mu Yang's soul power ginseng tasted good. After the evolution, not only was the ginseng more effective, but the flavor was also significantly improved. Maybe not the best in the world, but definitely delicious. You got it. If I'm being honest, my Ice Fire Fairy Jade Ginseng martial soul is definitely the strongest food type martial soul in the whole Soul Master world, Mu Yang said proudly. Xiao Yang, Binger, you should practice the martial soul fusion skill more, but try to keep it under wraps, Mu Xia cautioned. Got it. They both nodded. Activating the martial soul fusion skill was just the beginning. They needed to practice more and perfect it. See yeah, now that they both have a martial soul fusion skill, isn't it a bit awkward that Xiaoyang goes to Qihua Academy and Binger goes to Tianshui Academy? Shui Yanyu asked, landing and dismissing her martial soul. What are you up to? Mu Xia eyed Shui Yanyu warily. It wasn't hard to guess Shui Yanyu's little game. She wanted to steal the girl. Shui Yanyu smiled. See yeah, we've known each other for ages. Don't give me that look. The martial soul fusion technique takes 2 to tango. If Binger wants to master it, I, as her aunt, wouldn't mind her attending Chihua Academy, but your Chihua Academy doesn't have a simulated training field suitable for Binger. If she goes there, her soul power training will definitely suffer. If Xiaoyang came to Tianshui Academy, though, it'd be a different story. Xiaoyang's martial soul has both ice and fire, and one is a fusion of ice and fire. Training in the ice simulated training field would be just as effective as training in the fire field. So coming to our Tianshui Academy would be the same. Let Xiaoyang come to Tianshui Academy, and he'll not only keep up with his soul power training, but also practice the martial soul fusion skill with Binger. Isn't that perfect? Shui Yenyu, with the right tools, you can dig up anything. Mu Siye. Shui Yenyu was confident in her girlfriend's stealing attempt. As she said, they both had the martial soul fusion technique, they couldn't be separated. Was the martial soul fusion technique supposed to appear in vain? Since they needed to be together, they had to choose between Chihua Academy and Tianshui Academy. The simulated training fields of both academies would work for Mu Yang, but Chihua Academy's training field was unsuitable for Shui Binger. The choice was obvious. If Shui Yenyu were Mu Siye, she would have to accept it for her nephew and future niece-in-law. After all, an elder couldn't stand in the way of the younger generation's future, right? Ahem, well, it's getting late. Let's head back to Tiando City. Huolai spoke up. Right, it's almost dark. Let's go back. But Your Majesty Tyrannosaurus, Siya, think carefully about my proposal. Shui Yenyu didn't mind not getting her way immediately. She believed Huolai and Mu Siye would eventually grant her wish. Your Majesty. Hearing her aunt's respectful address, Shui Binger blinked her beautiful icy blue eyes and looked at Huolai curiously. In the mainland Soul Master world, the only ones addressed as Your Majesty were 9-ring titled Douluos. So Dinhua had reached the titled Douluo stage. Shui Binger narrowed her eyes slightly, a smile playing on her lips. With Dinhua being a 9-ring titled Douluo, she wouldn't have to worry about anyone trying to harm little Mu Yang when he showed his incredible talent to the world. A neutral titled Douluo was enough to deter most people with bad intentions. Otherwise, they'd gain a powerful enemy whether their plot succeeded or not. Without a vendetta or a huge payoff, no reasonable person would take that risk. Little Mu Yang, grow up fast. Holding Mu Yang's right hand, their fingers intertwined, Shui Binger thought to herself. Chapter 69 First Love, please order first. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When Mu Yang and the others got back to the Tiando Hotel, it was already dark. Yenyu, it's been ages since we all hung out. Why don't you call up everyone from college and we'll get together? Mu Siye suggested as they entered the hotel. Sounds good. Shui Yenyu replied. Mu Yang, Yuer's here too, Shui Binger said, tugging on Mu Yang's arm, their fingers laced together. Mu Yang nodded. Then I'll come along. It was only natural that he accompany his sister's new boyfriend to meet her friends. Besides, he and Shui Yuer were friends too. Hearing a knock, Shui Yuer opened the door to find her sister and Mu Yang holding hands. She paused for a moment, then immediately started teasing. Oh, so that's what you were doing, sis. Going on a date with Xiao Muyang. No wonder you didn't invite me. She paused, noticing something different. Huh? Why is your hair blue? Yuer, long time no see, Mu Yang greeted with a smile. Xiao Muyang, she grinned, long time no see. But you, after all this time, you managed to snag my sister without even a word. Or did she snag you? She pointed at their intertwined fingers, unable to resist ribbing them. Ahem, Mu Yang cleared his throat. Yuer, from now on, you can't call me Xiao Muyang. Oh yeah? What should I call you then? From now on, I'm your brother-in-law. Mu Yang declared, putting on a serious face. Ouch! Suddenly, Mu Yang felt a sharp pinch on his waist and winced. He looked down to see Shui Binger pinching the soft flesh of his side. Does it hurt? Shui Binger asked innocently as she pinched harder. Nope, Mu Yang lied. Really? Then I'll keep going. A mischievous smile played on Shui Binger's lips. Okay, it hurts. Binger, let go. Mu Yang quickly relented, rolling her eyes. Shui Binger released his waist, turned to Shui Yuer, and announced, Yuer, from now on, Mu Yang belongs to your sister. Shui Binger's tone was calm but firm, like she was laying down the law. Shui Binger knew her quirky sister well. Ever since they were little, whenever she had something that Shui Yuer wanted, she would do her best to get it. As a sister, of course she wanted to share. She was willing to share almost everything with her, but there was one exception, asterisk, little Muyang is so handsome, he'll be even more handsome when he grows up. Looking at Muyang beside her, Shui Binger thought to herself. No way, sis. So you really were planning to raise little Muyang and then eat him up in one bite? Shui Yuer's eyes widened in disbelief. Was her sister actually serious about that joke from earlier? Muyang. Asterisk, what in the world? Have I become a foster puppy? No, no, no. No way Muyang will be raised up. Absolutely not allowed, Yuer, go put on your shoes and let's get dinner, Shui Binger said, changing the subject, noticing the slippers on her feet. So you're gonna feed me dog food before asking me to dinner? I'm already stuffed, Shui Yuer muttered. Muyang. Go on, get going. Shui Binger glared at her playfully. Okay, Shui Yuer grumbled, heading back to her room. After all, Shui Binger was the older sister and still held some authority. Oh, and Xiao Muyang, you still haven't said why your hair turned blue, Shui Yuer said after changing her shoes. Oh, it's my martial spirit evolving, Muyang explained, then paused and added, and remember to call me brother-in-law. Shui Yuer. In the Tiando Hotel's catering annex, Wolai had reserved a large private room with 2 tables. When Muyang and the Tianshui Academy group entered, the Qihua Academy students were already there. Whoa, Xiaoyang. When did you and Binger get together? Wuhu asked, a surprised and gossipy look on her face as she saw Muyang and Shui Binger holding hands. When did it happen? It was love at first sight. Muyang declared without hesitation. After confirming his relationship with Shui Binger, Muyang thought it was because of the martial soul fusion skill. But after Shui Yuer spilled the beans earlier, Muyang finally understood that not only did he fall in love with the blue-haired girl he was holding in his hand from the beginning, but she also wanted to raise him up. Nice. Huo Wushuang gave Muyang a thumbs up. At this moment, Huo Wushuang admired his little cousin very much. They'd met once over 6 months ago and hadn't seen each other since. Now, more than half a year later, he'd somehow snagged the young lady. And the key was, her family didn't seem to have any objections. Amazing. If only Huo Wushuang had that kind of game. Why hadn't he even held a girl's hand at the age of 15? Alright, everyone, sit wherever you like, Huo Lai said, inviting everyone to take their seats. Soon, everyone was seated. One table was mainly for the girls. There were 10 people from the Tianshui team, including Shui Binger, Shui Yuer, Huo Wu, and a young lady from the Qihua team, plus Muyang. Xiaoyang, how about some fruit wine to celebrate? As the dishes were being served, Huo Wu looked at Shui Binger and then at Muyang on her right. It was just fruit wine, with a light buzz, perfect for girls and young guys. Besides, Soul Masters had way better physiques than regular folks, and nobody in the Soul Master world cared about minors drinking. Muyang turned to Shui Binger. Binger, want some? Shui Binger nodded slightly. Pour me some. She was in a celebratory mood today, so she was ready for a drink. Seeing the two of them about to drink, Shui Yuer rolled her eyes, leaned in to whisper something in the ear of the senior sister sitting beside her. The senior sister glanced at the two lovebirds, smiled and nodded, and then whispered to her teammate beside her, just like Shui Yuer. Soon, the whisper made its way around the entire Tianshui team. Sis, Yuer toasts you. Shui Yuer said, raising her small wine glass to Shui Binger. Clink. The two sisters touched glasses and downed the wine in one go. Come on, Binger, congrats on finding your dream guy. I'll drink to that. The senior sister next to Shui Yuer raised her glass to Shui Binger. Clink. Binger, I'm toasting you. Clink. Binger, cheers. 3 glasses were gone in under 2 minutes. By the 4th glass, Shui Binger realized something was up. Clearly, someone was trying to stir up trouble. But she couldn't back down now, so she finished the round. The cups weren't that big, and it was just fruit wine anyway. No big deal, right? After the first round, Shui Yuer and the Tianshui team temporarily stopped targeting Shui Binger and pointed their spearheads at Mu Yang. They were showing affection and dishing out dog food, so nobody was getting off easy. Alright, Mu Yang, no, brother-in-law, Yuer toasts you. Shui Yuer said with a grin as she raised her cup, 2 against 11, this was a sure win. Mu Yang raised an eyebrow. He knew Shui Yuer was going to try to make things interesting, but he had to drink, if only for her calling him brother-in-law. After downing the cup, Mu Yang quickly sent a text for backup. Otherwise, he and Shui Binger were doomed tonight. His sister-in-law had teammates, and he had teammates too. 2 hours later, looking at the troublemaker Shui Yuer and her 10 accomplices passed out from drinking, Mu Yang nodded in satisfaction, a tipsy grin on his face. They had 11, but he had more friends than them. There were 10 members of the Blazing Fire team, his cousin Hu Wushuang, his cousin Hu Wu, Hui Yun, plus himself and Shui Binger, that made 15. Without any real heavy drinkers, that numerical advantage of 4 people was a big deal. Besides, most of his teammates were fire attribute soul masters, and the fire soul power in their bodies slightly warmed the wine after it went down, making it less intoxicating than wine at normal temperature. Shui Yuer, that's not fair. Turning his head to look at Shui Binger, who was blushing prettily, Mu Yang couldn't resist leaning in and giving her a light kiss on the cheek, and just as Mu Yang was about to pull away after the kiss, Shui Binger wrapped her arms around his neck and kissed him hard on both cheeks. When facing the person they love, boys usually take the initiative, but girls are often more proactive, not to mention after a few drinks. TSK, kids these days. Huolai sighed, shaking his head. What's the big deal? I remember when someone confessed to me for the first time. I was only 12 years old, right? Mu Xie said casually, glancing at Huolai. Haha, Huolai's face flushed, and he couldn't help but remember his early days at Chihua Academy. After sending the drunk Shui Yuer and the Tianshui team back, Mu Yang returned to his room on the 5th floor of the hotel. He hummed a little tune as he took a happy shower. Then, he changed into his pajamas and went out to the balcony to practice Taiyin refining spirit facing the moonlight. People say that women will only slow down a man's development, but in Mu Yang's opinion, that's not entirely true. It's not that a rich woman will give you a good weapon, but that a responsible man with a girlfriend or wife will work harder. In the Douluo continent, where strength is everything, he'd practice harder. Mu Yang thought he was that kind of man. Time passed slowly, and the night deepened. Mu Yang stopped practicing Taiyin refining spirit and began to use his innate ability to deduce creation methods. However, tonight Mu Yang didn't continue to deduce the spiritual secret method that he had been working on for some time. Instead, he switched gears to deduce the ice attribute meditation method that he had temporarily named Extreme Ice Meditation Method. That's right, he was deducing it for Shui Binger. As for the spiritual secret method, among the 3 elements of essence, qi, and spirit, his spiritual power was the strongest. If he wanted to play to his strengths, he naturally had to focus on spiritual methods. After the spiritual secret method was perfected, in addition to launching the martial soul fusion technique with Shui Binger, the spiritual secret method would be his strongest tool for a long time. After all, after taking Wang Chuan Chiushui Du, his spiritual power level had reached the 5th ring Soul King level. After more than half a year of training, although he was still far behind the level of ordinary 6-ring Soul Masters, his improvement wasn't small. If he paired that with mysterious spiritual magic, his strength would be able to reach the 5th ring level by relying solely on mental power, and he definitely wouldn't be at the bottom. 2 days later, the Tiando Division Soul Master competition officially opened in the Tiando Great Soul Fighting Arena. However, Mu Yang wasn't the star of this Soul Master competition. During the month-long preliminaries, he spent his mornings with Shui Binger at the Tiando Soul Arena, watching the competition, and their relationship grew even closer, of course, only they knew whether they were actually there to watch the game or just take advantage of it as an excuse to go on dates. Needless to say, the contestants in this Soul Master competition were somewhat unusual. It wasn't that the overall quality of the participating students was much higher than in previous years, but that several participating students had soul ring configurations that exceeded the limit. The secret of whale gum had only gradually become known to the Soul Master world more than half a year ago. As of recently, the soul ring configurations of all participating students at the 3rd ring level were still normal. Those who represented the Advanced Soul Master Academy in the Soul Master competition usually had high soul power. If they had not advanced to the 3rd ring more than half a year ago, they would not have enough strength to participate in the Soul Master competition now. Therefore, the participating students whose soul rings were older than the limit all had soul power levels that had reached the 4th ring soul sect, and the 4th soul rings whose years were older than the limit were more than 7,000 years old, which was at least 2,000 years more than the normal optimum ratio limit. It wasn't just Mu Yang and Shui Binger who were on dates every day. Their older cousin Wuhu was also, however. Unlike Mu Yang and Shui Binger's two-way romance, Miss Wuhu had been almost annoyed to death by Feng Xiaotian lately. Every morning when she went out, Feng Xiaotian would be waiting outside her door, like a stalker, and except for the times when he couldn't follow her into the women's restroom, Feng Xiaotian would follow Miss Wuhu everywhere. Always stalking her, inseparable, like a piece of dog-skin plaster. He just couldn't get rid of him. If guys could reach this level, the only person on the mainland who could compete with Feng Xiaotian would probably be a certain red-haired guy from Wuhu Palace. Chapter 70 The Magic of Soul Fusion Technique. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It's worth noting that Feng Xiaotian probably should have taken Mu Yang's advice. When they first met at Qihua Academy, Feng Xiaotian was only a level 36 Soul Master. Now, less than a year later, he's at level 39, just like Wuhu. That's some serious progress. Barring any surprises, Feng Xiaotian should easily hit the 5-ring Soul King level in the next Soul Master competition 5 years from now. For someone with innate full soul power, averaging about 2 levels a year in the 4th ring stage is a piece of cake. Mu Yang thought, with my protagonist's aura, I'll break through your wisdom. Sure enough, after the preliminaries, Qihua Academy snagged one of the 5 advancement spots in the Tiando competition region. They did alright, ranking 2nd, losing to Shenfeng Academy, Tianshui Academy, and Xiangjia Academy. Leitang Academy was the only one ahead of them. They lost to Leitang Academy not because Captain Hualing wasn't strong, but because Yu Tianquan, Leitang Academy's captain and a member of the Blue Lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex family, was even stronger. With the Blue Lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex, known as the #1 beast martial soul in the world, the soul power level of a level 45 Soul Master, and the family's secret dragon transformation technique, Yu Tianquan took down Hualing, who was at level 46. After the preliminaries, there was a month-long break, followed by a promotion match lasting 2 weeks. This pitted the 5 qualifying teams from the Tiando division against the 10 qualifying teams from the Empire's 5 kingdoms and principalities, 15 teams in all, but the promotion match wasn't as accessible as the preliminaries. Unless you were a high-ranking member of the shortlisted academy or a participating student, you needed serious connections to watch the games. With a month-long break in between, Mu Xie took Mu Yang, Huo Wushuang, Huo Wu, and Huiyun back to Qihua Academy the day after the preliminaries. Shui Yanyu, Shui Binger, and Shui Yuer tagged along too. Mu Xie just brought Huo Wushuang, Huo Wu, and Huiyun back to Qihua Academy. Mu Yang, on the other hand, was going to pack his things and head to Tianshui Academy with Shui Yanyu, just as Shui Yanyu suspected. After Mu Yang and Shui Binger managed to pull off the martial soul fusion technique, they were pretty much destined for each other. So, to master the technique, they needed to be in the same academy. Qihua Academy wasn't the best place for Shui Binger and her Ice Phoenix martial soul to train, so Mu Yang had to transfer to Tianshui Academy. Not wanting to hold back their nephew and future niece-in-law, Mu Xie and Huo Lai were happy to let him go. However, Mu Yang wasn't officially joining Tianshui Academy. He was going as an exchange student, remaining a Qihua Academy student in name. After all, Qihua Academy still needed Mu Yang in the next Soul Master competition. Without him, it wouldn't be a sure thing that Huo Wushuang and Huo Wu alone could win the championship. Shui Yanyu didn't mind this arrangement. She had a feeling that, in a few years, Tianshui College and Chihua College would practically be one and the same. Of course, Mu Yang's return to Chihua College to pack his stuff was just an excuse. He wasn't really concerned about his luggage. He was mainly going back to grab the immortal herb, Acacia Heartbroken Red. He didn't have a storage soul guide capable of holding living things, and if the immortal herbs were stored in a regular one, they'd be fine for a short time, but, over the long haul, the herbs would lose their potency. So Mu Yang had stashed them at the college. 3 days later, back at Chihua College, inside his room, Mu Yang opened the secret compartment in his closet. 6 fancy jade boxes sat inside. They held the 6 immortal herbs he'd saved: Acacia Heartbroken Red, Narcissus Jade Muscles and Bones, Wonderful Muscles and Sky Chrysanthemum, Chilua Tulip, Snow Swan Kiss, and Fragrant Chilua Immortal Herbs. After grabbing the box with the Acacia Heartbroken Red, Mu Yang stared at the other 5 for a moment, then grabbed the Narcissus Jade Muscles and Bones as well. The Acacia Heartbroken Red was definitely for Shui Binger, and Mu Yang planned to give the Narcissus Jade Muscles and Bones to his sister-in-law, Shui Yuer. It wasn't that Mu Yang was trying to get with his sister-in-law. It was just that he had so many immortal herbs, it would be a waste not to use them. Shui Yuer wasn't an outsider, and she was talented, so it wouldn't be a waste to give her one. Maybe in the past, Mu Yang might have dreamed of having 2 girls by his side, enjoying the perks of dating 2 women, especially since they were sisters, but after gaining the martial soul fusion skill and practicing it with Shui Binger, Mu Yang's mindset had shifted. Why are soul masters with martial soul fusion skills either the best bros, sisters, or the most devoted couples in the world? Because the martial soul fusion skill is toxic. The more it's used, the stronger the bond, brotherhood, sisterhood, or love, between the 2 people becomes, as if their minds are being subtly altered. That's why you never see brothers or sisters stabbing each other in the back, or lovers cheating. Among soul masters who use martial soul fusion skills, the bipolar static field martial soul fusion skill turned Ju Douluo Yueguan and Ghost Douluo Goemei into the best of friends. Some even whisper that they share a super friendship. Who attacks and who defends between those 2? Need you even ask? The Golden Holy Dragon martial soul fusion skill made Lu Erlong wait 20 years for Yu Shaojiang, turning from a young woman into a middle-aged lady. They cast aside worldly prejudices, willing to risk it all, even though they're cousins. Meanwhile, Flanders went from being a young man to a lonely bachelor, eventually dying alone. The Netherworld White Tiger martial soul fusion skill turned Dai Mubai from a time management guru into a devoted partner, and made Zhu Zhuqin conveniently forget about some 1,000-man killer's past glories. It's all the magic of martial soul fusion skills. Even though it's toxic, Mu Yang didn't resist it, because it's a love from the heart, not a compulsion. Besides, my Binger is so sweet and beautiful. Mu Yang thought. The day after returning to Blazing Fire Academy, Mu Yang followed Shui Yanyu, Shui Binger, and Shui Yuer to Tianshui Academy. Before leaving, Mu Yang scored big from the academy, snagging all the silver flowers in their inventory. Silver flower nourishes the mind, boosting his daily meditation and deduction time. Tianshui Academy wouldn't offer those perks, and Mu Yang wasn't about to miss out. Tianshui Academy and Blazing Fire Academy are far apart, located in different provinces. Tianshui Academy is in Stro Province, in the northeastern part of the Tiando Empire. Stro Province borders the Tiando Empire's Imperial City Circle to the west, Sunset Forest to the south, the far north to the north, and the East China Sea to the east. In the northeast of the province lies the coastal city of Tianshui City, and Tianshui College sits just outside Tianshui City. 10 days later, Mu Yang and the others arrived at Tianshui College, 10 miles north of Tianshui City. The coastline curves inward, forming a large moon bay covering hundreds of square kilometers of sea. It's narrow at the opening and wide inside. In Moon Bay, off the southwest corner of the coast, there's a cluster of 1 large and 5 small islands, almost connected. Tianshui Academy is built on these 6 islands. Douluo continent isn't your average ancient society without superpowers. Its architecture is far more advanced than anything Mu Yang knew in his previous life. Although Tianshui Academy is in Moon Bay, you don't need to fly or take a boat to get in. A gorgeous stone bridge, over 300 feet long, connects the mainland to the nearest island. This small island is where the Tianshui College gate stands. Passing through the gate, Mu Yang followed Shui Yanyu and the others across a 650-foot stone bridge to the main campus. The main campus sits on a different island than the gate. It's the largest island in Moon Bay, roughly oval-shaped, covering about 5 square miles. The island isn't flat. Except for the gentle slope near the coastline and the southwest corner where the main campus is, the island is like a mountain rising out of Moon Bay, easily 200 or 300 feet high. Since Tianshui Academy is in the northern cold zone, the mountaintop is covered in snow, forming a natural ice training ground. Moon Bay, where Tianshui Academy is located, connects to the sea, providing a water-type Soul Master training ground. Tianshui Academy's ice and water training grounds are two of the most cost-effective of their kind. They need little to no upkeep. Binger, why are there flowers everywhere? Mu Yang asked. All he'd seen on campus were flowers of all kinds, adapted to the northern cold. Even the street trees were plants that bloomed year-round. Shui Binger smiled. The college is on the coast. Can you smell the fishy sea air? Got it. Mu Yang said. Anyone who lives by the sea knows that the air near the coastline often has a salty smell, but Tianshui College didn't. It wasn't a special location, but the fragrance of countless flowers and plants covering it up. Tianshui College is beautiful, and the students are all gorgeous. You can't have the smell of the sea ruining the vibe. It'd be too embarrassing. After walking into the administration building, Shui Yanyu quickly completed Mu Yang's exchange student paperwork. As of today, Mu Yang was an exchange student from Chihua College at Tianshui College. Worth mentioning, Mu Yang was the only guy in the entire place. The other students and teachers were all women. It was like being in a girls' club. 10 minutes later, Mu Yang followed the three to a villa in the residential area. Xiaoyang, you can live with us from now on, Shui Yanyu told him. Since Mu Yang was the only boy in the college, he couldn't live in the dorm with the girls. Plus, this villa only housed her, Shui Binger, and Shui Yuer, and there were spare rooms. Okay, Mu Yang said. The villa was nice, well decorated, and just as good as his place at Blazing Academy. One small downside, the house was big with a lot of rooms, so he had to sleep alone. One wall on the villa's second floor separated the boy and girl in first love. 1 week later, early in the morning, in the bedroom, after his usual morning meditation, Mu Yang opened his nightstand, took out one of the 2 fancy jade boxes, slipped it into his soul guide storage bracelet, and left the room. Knock, knock, knock. He knocked on the door of the next room. Binger, are you up? Coming. A response came from the room, followed by footsteps, and the door opened with a click. Mu Yang saw Shui Binger in blue pajamas, sleepy-eyed, with messy hair and dark circles. Binger, didn't you sleep well last night? He asked. She nodded, embarrassed. Not really. Then, go wake up Yuer. We'll leave after breakfast. She paused. You're not nervous, are you? Mu Yang shook his head. No, but it's my first time meeting your parents. Shouldn't we bring gifts? Why would he be nervous? He's talented, good-looking, and has the martial soul fusion skill. He's not afraid of his future in-laws. If all goes well, they'll adore him. We'll worry about that when you're older. I'm going to change, Shui Binger said, closing the door. Mu Yang touched his nose and went to wake up Shui Yuer. It was mid-September. For most, it was just another day, but for Mu Yang and Shui Binger, it was a bit special. Today was Shui Binger's 13th birthday. Since it was her birthday, and she was still young and close to her parents, she had to go back to Tianshui City to celebrate with them. If she took her sister, she couldn't leave Mu Yang alone at the academy. Shui Binger was nervous about bringing her future son-in-law home, which was why she hadn't slept well. Also, because Shui Binger's birthday was coming up, Mu Yang hadn't given her the Acacia Heartbroken Red, the Extreme Ice Meditation Method, or the many secret manuals he deduced. Life has to have surprises and a sense of occasion. Half an hour later, after breakfast at the academy cafeteria, Mu Yang, Shui Binger, and Shui Yuer set off for Tianshui City in a carriage.